My dad laughed and said, "You just sell cement and nails. Your sister deserves a real life." Then he took out a $50,000 loan in my name. My sister smirked and said, "Relax, you'll earn it back anyway." I stayed silent, but this morning I woke up to 42 missed calls. I never cared much about how I looked. Grease under my nails, cement dust on my clothes, those were signs of hard work, of a woman building something with her own hands. My parents, on the other hand, saw it differently. "Why can't you look presentable like your sister?" my mother would say every time I stopped by their house after work. "You're always covered in dirt like some common laborer." I owned 3 hardware stores, supplying everything from nails to roofing tiles. I spent years working from dawn till dusk, making sure my business thrived. Meanwhile, my sister Olivia floated through life like a princess, spending money she never earned. But I never imagined that my own family would rob me blind. It started small. My parents often asked for help, money for home repairs, medical expenses, small things. I never questioned it. When they asked me to get them a second card for my business account, I thought it was for groceries, maybe some emergency purchases. Then came the lie. "Elizabeth, we need a loan," my father said one evening, his voice heavy with false concern. "Your mother's health isn't great, and we have some urgent medical bills." I didn't even think twice. I went to the bank the next morning and co-signed a $50,000 loan under my name, but the money never went to medical bills. They spent it on Olivia. First-class tickets to Paris, a 5-star hotel in the heart of the city, designer clothes, spa treatments. She even sent me a picture from her trip, holding a glass of champagne with the caption, "Cheers to a stress-free life." I didn't realize what had happened until I saw my credit card statement. $115,000 from luxury stores in France. $20,000 transferred directly to my parents' account. And the final insult, $10,000 spent on home renovations, but not using supplies from my stores. No, they bought everything from my competitor, ERS, so I wouldn't suspect a thing. I stared at the numbers, my hands trembling with rage. They hadn't just stolen from me. They had betrayed me, laughed behind my back while spending my hard-earned money. And worst of all, they didn't think I'd do anything about it. They were wrong. Olivia wasn't just on vacation. She had taken her boyfriend and a group of wealthy friends with her, all from high-status families. She had to match their standards, which meant endless shopping sprees, where price tags didn't matter. She flaunted designer clothes, high-end jewelry, and extravagant meals, all paid for with my money. And my parents? They knew. They encouraged it. They believed that if Olivia played her cards right, she could marry into money, securing their future along with hers. They had turned my hard work into her golden ticket. I turned on my heel and walked out the door. They thought I would roll over. They thought I would accept it. They had no idea what was coming next. I couldn't sleep that night. The rage boiled inside me, refusing to settle. My own parents had stolen from me, not just money, but years of sweat and sacrifice. And for what? So Olivia could prance around Europe, pretending she belonged among the wealthy elite. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the stack of bank statements and receipts. $80,000 in debt. My business was already stretched thin with rising costs, and now I had loan payments I never agreed to. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. They thought I wouldn't fight back. They were wrong. Growing up, it was always Olivia. She was the golden child, the one with potential, the one who deserved nice things. Meanwhile, I was just the worker. When I was 13, I started working summers at a construction supply yard while Olivia was shopping at the mall with Mom. I stacked lumber and unloaded cement bags. By the time I graduated high school, I had saved up enough to buy an old truck. My dad laughed when I showed it to him. "Jesus, Elizabeth, couldn't you have picked something that doesn't look like it came from a junkyard?" I didn't care. That truck got me to job sites, helped me pick up materials, and eventually became the first work vehicle for my business. When I opened Henderson's Supply and Build, I did it with my own money. No loans, no handouts. I worked 16-hour days hauling inventory, making deliveries, doing whatever it took to grow the company. Olivia, on the other hand, was too busy finding herself. She tried college but dropped out after 2 semesters. She tried working for a fashion startup but quit after 3 months because the environment was toxic. Then she decided she wanted to be an influencer. My parents bought her a top-tier camera, paid for photography lessons, and even helped her rent a fancy apartment downtown to create content. She never made a dime from it. And yet when she demanded a luxurious European vacation to network with high-value people, my parents didn't just agree. They stole from me to pay for it. At first, I didn't understand how they had pulled it off. I monitored my business expenses closely, so how did they manage to steal so much without me noticing? Then I looked at the receipts again. They never bought anything from my store. Every single purchase, every bag of cement, every roll of insulation, every gallon of paint was from my competitor. They went out of their way to make sure I wouldn't see the transactions on my inventory logs. I called up an old friend who worked at Baker's Building Supplies, the biggest rival to my company. "Hey, Matt," I said, trying to keep my voice even. "We haven't spoken in a while, but I was wondering, have my parents been buying a lot from you lately?" Matt hesitated. Yeah. Actually, they placed some huge orders last month. Renovating the house, I think." I swallowed hard. "How much are we talking?" "Well, they spent about $30,000 here, and I know they ordered some high-end fixtures from another supplier. Why?" My fingers tightened around my phone. "Just curious." I hung up and exhaled shakily. They stole my money to renovate their home, and they did it in a way that made sure none of the profits came back to me. I wasn't just furious anymore. I was done. The next morning, I drove to my parents' house. Their driveway had been repaved. Their front door was new. The windows were freshly installed. The house didn't look like it needed any repairs at all. I stepped inside without knocking. My mom was in the kitchen, sipping coffee. She barely glanced at me. "Elizabeth, if you're here to complain again, I don't want to hear it." I dropped the bank statements onto the counter. "Explain." She sighed, setting her cup down with an exaggerated motion. "Oh, Elizabeth, you're still on about this? It's just money. You'll make more." I stared at her in disbelief. "Are you serious?" My dad walked in, adjusting his watch. "Look, sweetheart, you need to stop acting like a victim. Family helps each other out. That's how it works." "Help each other out?" I scoffed. "You didn't ask for help. You stole from me. You lied to my face about medical bills while you were blowing my money on Olivia's fantasy life." At that moment, Olivia walked in, her hair perfectly styled, her nails freshly manicured. She smirked when she saw me. "Oh God, Elizabeth, are you still whining about that loan?" I turned to her, my hands trembling with barely contained fury. "That loan has my name on it. I'm the one paying it off." She rolled her eyes. "Relax. You run a bunch of hardware stores. You'll be fine." "You mean the same stores you and Mom refused to buy from because you didn't want me to notice?" A flicker of annoyance crossed her face. "Ugh, stop being so dramatic." I laughed, actually laughed. "You're unbelievable." Olivia leaned against the counter, swirling her iced coffee like she was on a reality TV show. "It's not like we wasted the money. I needed to make an impression. Do you know how important networking is?" I gritted my teeth. "So that's what this was about. Playing rich to impress your spoiled friends." She flipped her hair over her shoulder. "It's called status, Elizabeth. You wouldn't get it." My mother suddenly interjected, her tone softening. "Sweetheart, you have to understand. Olivia has a chance to marry well. If she lands the right husband, it'll benefit all of us." I went still. "You stole my money because you thought Olivia needed it to trap some rich man?" My father shrugged. "It's an investment in the future, darling. You'll see." I looked at all three of them. My entitled sister, my smug father, my dismissive mother. I had spent my whole life breaking my back for this family, and this was how they repaid me. I exhaled slowly and shook my head. "No," I said, "not anymore." I turned and walked out. They didn't know it yet, but this was the last time they would ever take anything from me. Because I wasn't just leaving. I was about to burn everything down. I didn't go back to my parents' house after that. I didn't answer their calls or reply to their messages. They thought I was just throwing a tantrum. They had no idea I was about to make them regret every single decision that led to this moment. The damage came first. I had to assess just how much they had destroyed. I spent the next few nights going through my accounts, invoices, and expenses. The loan they tricked me into taking was just the tip of the iceberg. $80,000 in debt under my name. $30,000 spent at my competitor's store, funneling money out of my own business. $20,000 spent on Olivia's luxury vacation. Over $100,000 on high-end renovations to their house. Meanwhile, my stores were struggling. Inventory was running low. I had pending orders I wasn't sure I could afford to fulfill. My parents hadn't just stolen my money. They had stolen my future. But I wasn't going to let them win. The first strike came quickly. I knew my parents were comfortable. Too comfortable. They assumed I wouldn't fight back, that I'd cave the way I always had. So the next morning, I walked into my bank and froze every single account they had access to. The secondary credit card? Canceled. The account I used to transfer money to help them with bills? Locked. The automatic payments they had set up? Declined. Within hours, my phone blew up. Mom, Elizabeth, what's going on? I can't withdraw money. Dad, call me now. Olivia, what the hell, Elizabeth? My rent payment bounced. I smiled. I wasn't done. Exposing the lie came next. I visited my accountant and then my lawyer. Mark flipped through the loan documents, his expression darkening with every page. You should have come to me sooner, he said. This is fraud. You have every right to press charges. I nodded. I had suspected as much. My parents had forged some of my signatures, especially where they authorized charges I never agreed to. Can we prove it? I asked. Mark smirked. Oh, absolutely. That night, I sent my parents a single message. I know what you did. I have the bank statements, the receipts, and proof of forgery. You have 48 hours to pay back every cent, or I take legal action. Silence. Then my dad called. I answered, but I didn't say a word. Elizabeth, he said, forcing warmth into his voice. Let's not blow this out of proportion. I laughed coldly. Blow this out of proportion? You stole from me. It's family, he said patiently. You need to understand. No, I cut him off. You need to understand. Either you find a way to pay me back, or I take this to court. His voice dropped, taking on that authoritative tone he used when I was younger. Do you really want to do this? Think about what this will do to the family. I clenched my teeth. I did. That's why I'm giving you a choice. He exhaled sharply. Fine, we'll figure something out. But I knew him too well. He wasn't going to pay me back. He was going to try to outmaneuver me. The second strike came 2 days later. A friend who worked at the local real estate office sent me a message. Just a heads up, your parents have been asking about refinancing their house. They're trying to pull out equity. I clenched my jaw. Of course they were. They planned to take out another loan to cover their mess, and somehow make me pay for that too. I wasn't going to let it happen. I called Mark immediately. I want to file a fraud report, I said, and I want to put a lien on their house. He whistled. You're really going all in, huh? They stole from me, I replied calmly. I'm just returning the favor. The third strike landed hard. By the end of the week, my parents were officially under investigation for financial fraud. Their accounts were frozen. Their loan applications were denied. Their house was tied up in legal complications. And Olivia? She lost her apartment. She called me in tears, screaming about how I had ruined her life. You did that yourself, I told her evenly. You, Mom, and Dad. But I didn't do anything, she wailed. I laughed. Exactly. With my parents financially cut off, I refocused on my business. I met with suppliers, renegotiated contracts, cut costs where I could, and secured a short-term loan under my own terms. I rebuilt what they had nearly destroyed. And just to twist the knife, I made sure my parents' social circle knew exactly why they were struggling. Word spread fast. By the time they realized what had happened, their so-called friends had abandoned them. No more fancy dinner parties, no more business favors, no more free handouts. They had burned every bridge, and I made sure they had nothing left to stand on. After I took legal action, my parents and Olivia tried to pretend everything was fine. They acted like this was a temporary inconvenience, something they could smooth over with a few apologies and fake promises. Reality didn't work that way. My father cracked first. He had always been proud and confident, the man who looked down on my work, the one who told me I'd never amount to anything. Now, he was a financial pariah. Once word spread that he had committed fraud, his friends and business connections cut him off immediately. I heard through a mutual acquaintance that he tried to secure a loan through an old friend. The man laughed in his face. You had a daughter who could have set you up for life, he said. Instead, you robbed her. My mother wasn't much better. She had always cared more about appearances than reality. When she realized their friends were turning on them, she panicked. She started calling relatives, sobbing about how I had betrayed them, how I was being cruel over a misunderstanding. It didn't work. Most of them already knew the truth. Instead of sympathy, she got cold replies. You stole from your own daughter, Linda. What did you expect? You always spoiled Olivia. Now you're paying the price. She even tried asking my grandmother for money. Grandma's response was simple. Sell your house. You have no right to ask for help after what you did. And Olivia? She fell the hardest. She had never faced real consequences before. She thought she could charm her way out of anything. But when her rent bounced and her rich friends realized she wasn't actually wealthy, they cut her off immediately. She had built her entire identity around looking expensive, around belonging to a world she was never truly part of. Now she was broke, couch surfing, and completely alone. A month later, I got a text. Olivia, Elizabeth, I'm sorry. Can we talk? I ignored it. Then my mother called, hysterical. We're losing the house. We have nowhere to go. You should have thought about that before stealing from me, I said coldly. Please, she begged. We're family. I laughed. That never mattered when you were spending my money, did it? She burst into tears. I didn't care. They had made their choices. Now they were paying for them. The house was gone. A few weeks later, it was official. My parents' home was foreclosed. They had no savings left, no one willing to help, nothing. I heard they ended up moving into a tiny rental, something far beneath the luxury lifestyle they had tried so desperately to maintain. And Olivia? For the first time in her life, she had to get a job. The last I heard, she was working retail, dealing with rude customers, and earning barely enough to survive. When I found out, I smiled. She deserved every second of it. 1 year later. A full year had passed since I walked away from my family for good. A year since I refused to be their victim any longer. And my life? It was better than ever. My business had not only recovered, it had expanded. I opened a new store across town, one that quickly became even more successful than the first. I hired more staff, renegotiated contracts with better suppliers, and finally had the financial security I had worked so hard for. Most importantly, I no longer had to clean up their messes. Every cent I made was mine, not a safety net for people who never respected me. My parents and Olivia, on the other hand, were still living with the consequences of their betrayal. After the foreclosure, they moved into a small rental apartment in a less desirable part of town. My father, once so proud and respected, was jobless and ignored. No one wanted to associate with a man who stole from his own daughter and lost everything. My mother tried to maintain some sense of a social life, but gossip spreads fast. The women she once considered friends now treated her like an outsider, whispering behind her back about how they had scammed their own child. And Olivia had fallen the furthest. Without access to unlimited money, she lost all her rich friends the moment they realized she wasn't actually wealthy. Her luxurious lifestyle had been funded by stolen money, and once that truth came out, they cut her off completely. She had to take a real job for the first time in her life. I heard through a mutual acquaintance that she was still working retail, spending her days folding clothes and dealing with angry customers. The same sister who used to mock me for having dirty hands was now earning minimum wage. I should have felt sorry for her. I didn't. She laughed while spending my money. She called me dramatic when I confronted her. Now she was drowning in the mess she helped create. Then came their last attempt. One evening, after closing up my store, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I already knew who it was before I opened the message. Mom, Elizabeth, please. I know we made mistakes, but we're struggling. Can we just talk? A few seconds later, another message. Dad, we're still your parents. Whatever happened in the past, we need to move forward as a family. Then the final message. Olivia, Elizabeth, I messed up. I know that now. I just want to talk. Maybe meet up, please. I stared at my phone for a long time, letting their words sink in. They thought they could just come back. They thought a few empty apologies would erase everything. They thought I would save them. They were wrong. I sat down on the bench outside my store, the glow of the streetlights reflecting off the windows. I could still hear my father's dismissive voice telling me I would never be successful. I could still remember my mother calling me dramatic when I discovered the truth. I could still see Olivia rolling her eyes, acting like my suffering was a joke. They weren't reaching out because they were sorry. They were reaching out because they had lost everything, and they wanted me to fix it. I exhaled slowly and typed my response. No, you're not my family anymore. Then I blocked their numbers. For good. As I put my phone away, I looked up at the bright neon sign above my store. Henderson's Supply and Build. I built this. I made this happen without their help, despite them. For the first time in my life, I was truly free. And it felt good.